Once again, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sharon Madaki. I'm the head of corporate services for Sociocapital. And we hold a series of webinar series. And today, in commemoration with the International Development Day, which happened 3 days ago, we are hosting a webinar on unlocking sustainable solutions, the role of data in global development. And we have today who will be speaking with us. And our agenda today is quite, I wouldn't say quite full, but we will try as much as possible to work within the time we have. So we'll begin with our introductions, and then with an introduction of Sociocapital. From there, an introduction of the topic, and then we proceed to an introduction of the panelists, a bit of housekeeping rules, and we'll try and do like a pre-discussion survey where we'll ask a question. It wouldn't take so much of our time. Then we have our discussions, and then we open the floor for question and answers from our guests. After our question and answers, we will have a brief overview, or we'll share a brief overview of what we call our impact works. It's a part of our organization where we have to do things around data monitoring and evaluation and the likes. I'll be inviting my colleagues to speak on that. After that, we'll have a quick closing remark and we'll be done. So we trust that we can fit all these in within the hour. So about Sociocapital. So Sociocapital for us is we like to call it a managing consulting strategy, impact innovation, development advisory organization. And we generally work with public sector, we work with private sector, we work with social sector organizations to transform systems, improve human capital, and ensure more competitive and inclusive sustainable growth. And the vision behind our organization is that we want an African society where communities are empowered, institutions, both government institutions, private sector institutions, social sector institutions are empowered, that they are all empowered to equip themselves and drive their own change. So instead of relying on one party or the other, they will be working hand in hand with other partners to achieve their own change. So generally, that is who we are as Sociocapital. And so, as I said earlier on, 3 days ago, the world commemorated the World Development Information Day. And this day was set aside to draw the attention of, attention to development problems and the need to strengthen international cooperation to solve them. An organization that believes in leveraging collaboration, we thought that it would be good for us to run this webinar, and with the aim of spotlighting the responsibilities linked to harnessing data for informed decision-making, fostering international cooperation, and ultimately driving sustainable development. We also believe that exploring the power of data in shaping effective strategies, examining data-driven decision-making, and emphasizing the importance of international collaboration can greatly impact global development collectively. So for this program, the key points, or we have about 4 key points we intend to address during this webinar. And the first one is the power of data in global management. The second is data-driven decision making. The third is international cooperation for global development. And the final, data-driven accountability and transparency. So for our panelists, the first person we have as our panelist today is Adebayo Samuel. So Adebayo is a demographer and social statistician. He's dedicated to the production of high quality data for informed social and health policy decision making. He has over a decade experience and has played a pivotal role in designing and implementing robust data management systems for both national and state level surveys. He currently serves as the research and learning advisor at Creative Associates International. He's passionate about education data, where he diligently measures learner performance through regular assessments, as well as contributes to research and learning initiatives. Welcome, Adebayo. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everyone.
Next, I have Ayomide Ladipo. She is a program manager, a writer, and a researcher, and she currently serves as the head of Tracka at BudgIT Nigeria. She's worked, her work is centered around the intersection of both project management, storytelling, and research. And over the past 6 years, she has made significant contributions faced by vulnerable individuals in low-income communities. She has her expertise are in data analysis, analytical skills, strategic communications, and has a passion for community outreach. She also has her skill sets around budget monitoring and evaluation in general, content development, and program management. She's a dedicated advocate for positive change and social impact. Welcome, Ayomide, to this webinar series, and thank you for finding time to join us.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here. Thank you.
All right, and lastly, third panelist is Victor Ejechi. Victor, I hope I pronounced your surname correctly. So Victor is a librarian, professional librarian, and he has extended his professional capabilities beyond the shelves of a library. He currently serves as a senior data analyst and journalist paper. There he marries data and storytelling. Beyond being a data enthusiast, he nurtures future data talents and uses his expertise to enlighten the public. Thank you, Victor, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. And of course, you pronounce the surname very well. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So quick housekeeping rules. We'll require that our guests mute their mics when they are not speaking. And if you want to speak, please raise your hand if you have a question or a comment during the question and answer session, and we will grant you access to speak. Alternatively, you can leave some of your questions in the chat box, and we will try as much as possible to respond to them. Next, we'll be taking our pre-discussion survey. So we know that at the beginning, I tried to make a brief introduction around the context of the webinar today. and we would like to take a poll. And the question is, what do you know about what we are about to discuss? In other words, what do you know about unlocking development? Okay, so unlocking the sustainable solutions, the role of data in global development. What do you know about this topic? Okay, so I think for some reason I was logged out. Can you hear me now? Okay. So, so that we do not take much of our time, we'll just proceed to the discussion for the day, and we will start with asking our panelists some questions to which they will address some of the key points that I had mentioned earlier at the beginning of the webinar. So I'll start with you, Victor. How does data enable individuals and organizations to make informed decisions in the development sector?
Thank you so much for having me. Hope you can hear me clearly. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good.
Yes, I can hear you.
Victor Ejechi. Yeah, good. Also, the importance of data. If I get the question again, can you come again with the question?
So how does data enable individuals and organizations to make informed decisions in the development sector?
Okay, good. Beautiful. In the end, when it comes to data, I like to believe that there's a saying that it is the new oil. It has come to stay, and it helps for wider discussion. So just before we started this conversation, there was actually a pre-discussion poll. And the essence of that is for you to get the opinion of people, to get to know what they know about the topic before the discussion. And what I want to also believe that at the end of the discussion, there will be a post-discussion poll. And the essence of that is for you to know the level of knowledge of people, for you to understand people, for you to know if this is working, and for you to know where to actually channel your energy next. And that is where data comes in. Data, it's so important that if you don't have it, making decision becomes difficult. For instance, how many people attended this webinar? Why did they attend? How many people responded that they were attend? Why didn't they attend? How many male, how many female? So if you have a program like this, for instance, and you realize that you have more male, attending this program, now you ask yourself, this is the data that you have. What kind of strategic preparation do you need to do? What intense publicity do you need to do next? Now, it will inform your next decision. So that's, I believe, that for every policy making progress that you want to do, if you don't have data to back it up, you're just making assumptions. You're making assumptions. So if you say that you want to feed people in Ajegule, for instance, you want to feed the community in Ajegule. Do you even know where Ajegule is? How many women, how many men are in Ajegule? Yes, I understand the challenge of the fact that data is difficult to get in Nigeria, in this part of the world where we are. But the truth is, if you don't have data, you will not even know how many the packages. Let's assume you're coming all the way from the Victoria Island, you're coming to the mainland for a presentation. You want to give out souvenir. If you don't have the data of the number of people that are attending your event, you won't even know the number of souvenir. This is me trying to be basic with my explanation. You won't even know the number of souvenir to prepare that you can give to people. So in rounding up this particular question, I would say data is an integral part of any form of discussion if you really want to see productivity comes out from that particular firm. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Victor, for that very simple explanation to the question, so that even if you don't have a background as to what we are talking about, you can visualize it with his explanation. So I'll be asking Adebayo. He mentioned about identifying the number of people, the number of females, the number of males, supposing you want to print a souvenir and all of that. So my next question to Adebayo will be, what metrics and indicators are essential for quantifying the success of a development initiative? And how can data be used to measure progress and impact in the development sector?
Okay, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone, once again. I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just want to get that feedback. So, well, let me just continue from where Victor stopped. He has mentioned a lot of things, and part of what he mentioned covers what we call indicators. Indicators are expected, like the general term we use for them are called key performance indicators. And when you talk about key performance indicators, KPIs, they're actually meant to keep people informed, to know what is happening. He mentioned that you need to know number of boys, number of girls. Those could actually stand as what we call indicators. And your actions, your decisions, is what you want to do. The development space is quite big, and there are different levels of or sectors that we can look at. For example, we can talk about health sector, where you can have indicators around fertility, mortality, morbidity. You can look at education space, where we are looking at how many children, enrollment in school, how many male, how many female are in school. You can look at their reading frequency. Do they have ability to read? You can look at sectors like water and sanitation. All of these are somewhat, they are connected to the SDG goals. For example, education, that should be SDG 4. And water and sanitation, looking at what percentage of people having access to potable water. And these are metrics that you can use to know if development is happening, if there is progress, for example, in your program, if there is progress or not, or what exactly is happening. You don't need to go deep into the field. Once you have that data and you have these indicators and you have data reporting on that, then you should be able to know at what level are we currently on this activity or on this project, and how close are we to a target. For every indicator, usually there are targets. For example, you have a target audience. I don't know, you have a target audience for this webinar to say you want to reach 200 participants for this particular webinar. So the question is, based on the number of persons currently on the meeting or the number of persons who responded, how close are you to that particular target? And that's what indicator helps you to achieve. I will stop on that for now.
All right, thank you, Adebayo. So we note that there are a number of international organizations in most developing countries in Africa and some parts of Asia. And a lot of times they work with government agencies and government ministries and departments. How can government and these international organizations better collaborate to leverage on data for informed decision making? Now we are looking at this in the context of global developments. Ayo, please respond to that.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. I'd like to say that coming from, so I work in the nonprofit sector, and so most of our funding comes from international organizations and donors. And sometimes the nonprofits tend to, in the bid for survival, tend to fall into this trap of, oh, what's the next thing? Like, what are the international organizations? What do they decide they want to fund next year? What is their theme or what is their vision? So we tend to craft programs around that and just submit just to get funding. And I think sometimes it affects the level of impact that we have seen in investments in the past how many years. So we've seen a lot of international organizations pump money, partner with governments, pump money into projects, pump money into programs. But we are always looking at addressing our problems from the international lens. So for instance, let's say I don't want to call it the in thing right now. What is trendy right now for organizations to fund is climate change. So there is a lot of funding put into that. And that is, while that is a global problem, when we bring it down into our own context as a country, we have to look at what are the most pressing issues. So climate change is also an issue, but Nigeria has the highest maternal mortality rates in the country. So why do we want to, if we are going to have a focus on funding, why are we focusing our funding and all that in that? So international organizations and the government, they need to narrow down, contextualize country problems or regional problems. And it is not just about, oh, this is a global problem, this is what we are funding. Look at the data when it comes to the data internationally, globally, says climate change is a pressing issue. It is an emergency. But what is the data saying about emergency in Nigeria? And that is something that needs to be focused on. So when we're doing partnerships, we are not just doing partnership based on, oh, we want to get money, we want to get funding. We need to get funding and what's it called, based on what the data is saying. So my submission is that we should look at data in local context, even when we want to address global issues, local context. And so let it guide our partnerships and our relationships. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayo, for that response. So you mentioned something around partnership, and I would like to ask Victor my next question. So what do you think that the role of public-private partnership can play, especially in utilizing data, and how can they be strengthened? Because we know that, yes, there are international organizations that partner with government, but there are also private sector in collating data, in assessing data. There are all sorts of stakeholders involved. So, and we have the private organizations too that can have some level of partnership with the public sector to collate this data. So this partnership, how can they play, or what role do these partnerships play in utilizing data, and how can they be strengthened?
Yeah, thank you so much. The truth is, no government can actually do everything by themselves, and no government has all the answers that they need to actually move the country, even in the global space. Hence the reason why the CSO, the non-profit, are very important. Now, there have to be a form of synergy, because there are stakeholders in actually driving your administration or in terms of what you want to achieve. They are very important in arriving to that. So let's say that you want to achieve zero hunger, part of the SDG, or you want to remove poverty, end poverty in your country. So who are the NGOs that you should partner with? People that have, some NGOs literally go to the field themselves to see situation of things, right? Hence the reason why you need to form a form of partnership with them. And one way to do that is to encourage them and make them understand that their voice counts. You see, and I will say this with all sense of it, that if you have information, you are sitting in the government house, sometimes you don't even have an idea of what the people are facing until you form a form of partnership with them. So let's say that, look at what Tracka is doing, because I've used some of their data a long time now. Government perhaps don't even know, or the public don't even know, that some roads that the government have actually sent in money have not been constructed or have not been done. Let me give you a practical example. A particular governor decided that a road should be constructed, right? And he has done it. The funding has been released and all that. But the truth is that nobody has gone to the field to actually check if this thing has been done. in his own assumption, he thought that something has been done with it. When you go on the online and you saw what Tracka is doing, and then you were like, oh, this thing has not been done, right? Why the governor might not come on the public space to bash his staff? Because if you look at CV, he's supposed to have actually have an idea with this. But the truth is that the partnership between what Tracka is doing and what his administration wants to do, it will actually help in one way or the other to counter corruption, to also bring a form of transparency in it. But the truth is that for these NGOs, you need to also help to make them part of the government. And when I mean make them part of the government, I mean that carry them alongside with what they're doing. And just in line with what Ayo said, I want to stress the part of localizing data, which she stressed about. But the truth also is that if she also mentioned that part of whereby there is a particular, it's as if there is a national team or a global team of where the funders want to raise money into. So just like in the past 1 year, 2 years or 3 years thereabout, I've seen a lot of NGOs vetted all in the name of climate change, right? And these are people that don't even have experience so much in it. Because of the funding that is available, they're actually opening space, which also create a form of distrust between government and the public they want to work with. But I'm saying that my submission is for government to really work with the public sector and form what they call a PPP kind of relationship. I would say that government would take the private sector as part of the administration. There's no stakeholder meetings you want to have in particular field that you should not involve them. And lastly, not forgetting that government is diverse. You can have the agricultural sector, you can have data is everything. And one thing that people mistake is they think data is just number. Data is not just number. You know, so if you don't see figures, so people don't assume it to be data. No, data might be words. You know, it can be written out. So I would say that the government should understand that they can partner with different people. The agricultural sector, there's data in that part. There's data in the health sector. There's data in the mining sector. You know, and without this data, proper decision cannot be made. You cannot even effectively deliver your mandate for your people. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Victor, for your comprehensive answer. So Victor has made emphasis on localizing data, which Ayomide too had mentioned in her answer to her previous question. I mean, Ayomide, I'm coming back to you. So in talking about localizing data, how do you think that, or how does data help in resource allocation? I know that Victor tried to touch on it in his just concluded response. So I want you to throw a bit of light on data, how it can help a resource allocation for development projects, and identifying areas with the greatest need for intervention.
Okay.
Trying to structure programs around interests of funders.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Data is quite interesting because it is like, for me, data is like a live movie. You can tell what is happening in a particular place in the world, or let's say in Jigawa State, by me just sharing an Excel sheet for you, showing stats, showing data. You can see what is happening. So data is critical in everything we do. And if you want to see countries that are serious about development, they take data seriously. Data helping in resource allocation. We are currently working on a report, and my team, we are currently working on a report where we want to put out what we found from the projects we've been tracking across the country in 2022 and all that. And we saw that there are some states that have, for instance, going around in neighboring states, they have a lot of water problems. You know, I think maybe it's the terrain or something. But then you see that the government has about 300 projects. The federal government has 300 projects to implement in this state, and there is not a single water project in it. So what does that say is that you have a problem that you are not addressing. And why? Because you're not using data. So one thing we want to also try to do is to use data to push advocacy for. So we can say that your state has this particular issue, and this is where your resources have been going to. You need to rechannel your resources back to where it is. Because if we are saying that, for instance, we've been getting a lot of funding when it comes to health programs. We've been probably increasing our allocations, let's say by 2% every year to health and all that. But why are the indices not, why are they not shifting? Why are they not moving? Why is the maternal mortality rate still high and all that? What helps us with that is data. So you see, you look at where is the funding going to, how is the funding being addressed, and how does it connect? But if we are not using data to make decisions, and we are just making decisions arbitrarily, we have this saying where somebody will say something and you say, where's your source? You say, I don't feel like for you now. And that is just an habit that penetrates everywhere in the country. You will be in decision-making rooms and you will see that decisions that affect the public are being made arbitrarily without any form of data backing it up. So you want to do this. Oh, why do you want to do this? There's no reason. It's just because this is what we need to do. And so data is key, and the difference between a completed project or a program and a successful program is a data-backed program. Data from ideation, data at the point of implementation, you are collecting data. At the end of the project, you are collecting data. You're seeing what went wrong, what did not go wrong, what can be done better. So those are the ways that data can be used for resource allocation, to identify the problem, to address the problem, and also to see where the pain points are and where the successes are. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayo. Thank you very much, Ayo. Victor, I'm coming back to you. So this is a bit of a digression from what we've been talking about data since we started the meeting. And we've been talking about data around resource allocation, data around funding, data around identifying pressing areas where a need for development is required. We are going to go a little bit away and talk about security, data security and privacy. So how do you think we can balance data security and privacy with effective data utilization?
Yeah, so in a global space, as we penetrate into a technological advancement country or world where everybody information is online, everybody has, every day we're putting a lot of information online on Twitter, different technologies coming out. Now, with the increase of technology also comes with a risk in data. The data privacy rather is being threatened. One way that people need to understand is this, for every platform, there is a form of data security protection law that guides, first of all, for every country, there's a law like that. For every platform, there's also a way you have to check your security. What amount of data are they collecting? People don't check these things. I've seen people, when Thread came out, for instance, people just go open Thread, they say, do you agree to this? Yes, you click yes, without even reading it, because I wanted to do some analysis on it. I went through it and I realized that these people are taking a lot of data from you, right? Why they will tell you that it's been protected and all that, right? A lot of information is being collected. But the question now will not be like, will you not give a yes for you to use the platform? Because if you don't approve it, if you don't click the tick, you can obviously not be given access to the platform. So what do you do in that instance? I know that platform like Facebook you can recall back your data. You can delete your data from their server once you feel like you're no longer using the platform. Of course, there are laws, international laws that can also protect your information. I will give you a practical example. Somebody tweeted something online, right? as a journalist, I felt on the platform like, let me just take it and write a story, screenshot it and put it in my story. And the person told me, don't do that. And I was like, this is public information, right? From my own understanding, that this is just a tweet, But the person made me understand that the fact that I am publicly tweeting does not mean that you should use it in your story. Still come back and take permission from you. So what that made me to understand is that for every time I want to take somebody's tweet and maybe I want to screenshot it, most especially, I sometimes DM them and tell them that, can I use this? Sometimes as also because I do business journalism as well. So you see a particular post online and then you just copy it and quote the person. But the truth is that the person might not want it to be that vast. So of course, there have been a conversation around, if you don't want it to be vast, why put it there? You get? And lastly, the protection of data, because the world is very, very, it's not that, it's so, when I say something is global, but I think it's too small. It's very, very small. As large as it is, it's also still small in its sense. So you see people that do this online on Twitter, where a particular influencer will come up and tell you that, please, if you want data, put your phone number. The first person that will put their phone number they will give you recharge card, right? And this is the same phone number that you use in connecting your lines, your business app and all that. And there's a strategy on this. So the first person will come, maybe in January, it will come and say, if you know that you are born in social month, which celebrity do you mark with? You will choose your birth month. It will come and say, what year are you born? In different month. It will come and ask you your country. It's collecting data on you. And it can do that for 1 year. And you will not even notice. I see a lot of people bank account. They say, okay, I want to give giveaway. Maybe you legitimately have like 20,000 to give to people, and they will tell you the first 20 people to put there. People are rushing to impute their bank account, and then forgetting that you have dropped your phone number at one point in time, you've dropped your birth certificate, they will start manipulating. Before you know it, they say fraud has happened. So these are ways people need to be conscious of how we protect our data. And these are just corporate data I'm talking about, but we're looking at the global perspective, right? We should also know that somebody came to my office to do an interview, and the person said, well, because I feature in the interview, it wasn't even me the person was interviewing, it's a video interview. The person was interviewing someone else. And at the end of their production, they saw that I feature in that particular video. And they could not go back and edit it because they have done production already. The person gave me a form as for consent that actually approved me to be in that particular video. This is something that people don't do. People just go on the street, take video of people and just put them in the newspaper because you feel like you have camera and everything. So in rounding up, I would say that in as much as the world is vast and in as much as we are trying as much as possible to collect as much data, let's also know that we are giving a lot of information. Some of you, like me, I use social media a lot. I give a lot of information sometimes, but as much as you give, you also know that there are many of those information that need to be protected as well, because you have to protect yourself first before the government can actually build any policy to protect you. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Victor, I'd like to ask a follow-on question. So we've talked about this privacy and security that a lot of us take it for granted. So could you highlight like some key challenges and ethical considerations associated with collecting and using this data and how we can address them?
So some of the ethical issues is the fact that you don't have the right to use people's data if they are not giving you permission to. And this can sound a little bit funny, but the truth is that you have my contact. Let me give you a practical example. The fact that you have my phone number and somebody needs my phone number does not mean you must give the person my phone number. As simple as that. Your colleague, somebody buzzed me on Facebook and said, please, I need this person. I've been looking for this person. Give me the person's phone number. I don't want to know if they have relationship. I have to reach out to the person first with the permission and consent before I can give out that information. And another thing again, one of the challenges you will face is that, but if the data is a public domain, when I'm talking about it's the government data, is a public data, I don't think you need permission for that. I'll give you an example. You don't need permission to get the phone number of your House of Rep member or your governor's phone number. They are public office. That is the main reason why they should have a public number and probably a private number. But you don't have the right to go to your public director. Their personal houses, I feel like they should have their own privacy as well. But once they are in office, they are having the own public. So before you even start, before you give out information, before you register for NIN, before you register for your PVC, understand the implication of the data you are delivering to them. Have you seen a case whereby you go on, you start getting email, you don't even know where that is coming from? Okay, I will round up with this particular example because I've had a lot of funny example. A particular brand was coming to Benin. Then I was in Benin. Then was coming to Benin. What am I even saying? Junior was coming to Benin. Let me be specific. And they sent a particular guy to come to Benin to create the awareness in Benin. And this was some of the things I did that I was not proud of. I wasn't that much. I was just looking for money as a young man then. So when the guy came to Benin and then he reached out to me and said, Victor, I need to send message to a lot of people to come for my conference free of charge. And he doesn't even know how to do it. What did he do? He said I should get him for every 100 phone numbers I get for this guy, I get then, I think there was about 50,000. And to get phone number is very easy because then in university, you obviously will get into a lot of group on different WhatsApp group. I just go into one WhatsApp group and collect all the phone numbers there, send to this guy send bulk SMS to them. It's that simple. It's that simple. And also during the election period, when I was in my NYC, I realized that we submitted a lot of information for INEC because we want to participate in the election. And one day, there's a PDF file that was running around. And I saw my name, my email, my details on the particular PDF, which means that
I think we've lost Victor. Victor, are you still on, or am I the one that is off? Okay.
I think we lost him.
Okay, I think he's back on. Okay, we lost you at some point. Unmute your mic, Victor.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Thank you.
So which means that, in my line of thought, which means that a lot of information that we give to these people, some of them, they don't have protection for them. They give it out, you know. So I'm always telling you that it's also wrong for you to get anybody's phone number on the WhatsApp group and share publicly. Now I know better. You know, you are breaching into their privacy rights. Okay. So I would leave that submission there.
Okay, thank you very much, Victor. Let me come back to you, Adebayo. How can organizations adapt and adjust their strategies based on data-driven insights from measuring progress and impact? You know, earlier Ayomide had said something around identifying using data to resolve some of the pressing issues with the example she gave in Ebonyi State. So how can we encourage governments and other organizations, both private and public sector organizations, to adjust their strategy so that their data-driven insights can be used to measure projects and then inform impact?
Okay, thank you. Before I go into that, I will just add a little to what Victor has been speaking about. And I really don't want us to limit it to data in the public domain. I know that there are many persons or individuals on this platform or that these videos we actually reach out to. We also need to understand, like, companies who conduct surveys, probably social impact now, you do survey in the community and you collect what you call personal identifying information, PII. Specifically phone numbers of your beneficiaries, their age and all of those informations. First off, that data needs to be protected since you got consent and you let them know that, oh, this data will only be used for this project purpose only. And such data should not be redirected for other purposes. So when we talk about data misuse or abuse or violation of privacy, it's not just on public data at as a figure, also case organizations who think we've paid for the data collectors to collect data, it's our own, and we can use anyhow. And I think also that is us not appropriate. Now, going back to your question, there is this recent direction by USAID around what we call CLA approach. And CLA approach simply means collaborating, learning, and adapting. So it is a process whereby organizations go through a series of activities, collaborate within, learn from what has happened, and use that learning to adapt and to change their programs. So it has a few elements. I can share links on that, maybe on chat box. But a few of those elements includes what we call pause and reflect. Just like the name implies, everybody take a pause. Let's think about our process so far. What can we learn from them? And how do we move forward with this learning? Also, you organize what you call learning sessions, and you document learning from those sessions. For example, you have partners who you have been working with, you have teams you are working with. How has this implementation been on the field? You could just be as simple as you invite your data collectors to your office, you learn from them what are experiences from the field, and how can that learning improve your subsequent trainings. For example, I would say after this webinar, there should be a learning session with the Sociocapital team to say what have we learned and how can we improve this. In addition to that, there is need for top management levels officers to also get involved in these processes, because they will be the ones to take actions, necessary actions, and drive the adaptation process. So the first of it, the first C there says collaborate. Who are your collaborators? Who are your teammates? Who are you working with? Then items on the table. For example, you are implementing a program. You're implementing a program. You need to call together your collaborators. What have you learned so far on this program? What have you learned so far on this activity? What have you learned so far implementing this particular project? Now, how can we use data that we have collected? If there are items you are tracking, how can we use data that we have collected? What are we learning from it? Now, whatever we have learned from that, how do we put this back into our programming to improve on what we are currently doing? So this simply means that, oh, these are the things happening on the field. Oh, our implementation, we found out that, oh, we have an assumption to say things are existing currently in the community. And when we got to the community, we found out, oh, things are actually not in right places. That is a quick learning. Now, that learning should be used now to redesign. So it's like a loop. So you pick that learning, you take it back into your system, you adjust your programs and make advancement in that direction. So it's a CLA process, and it's a very good process that can help organizations to move forward in the right direction. Thank you. And over.
All right, thank you very much, Adebayo. So a quick one, as a follow-on, you mentioned something about going to the communities and finding out that the data you got is not exactly what it is, and it could be used as a quick learning process. So how do you ensure data-driven accountability with your experience in the development sector?
Thank you for that. So at the beginning of this session, we talked about indicators. And one a very important attribute of an indicator is that it's measurable. The indicator is smart and is measurable. So for your indicators and data, because the center of this discussion today is around data, and I think it's very good that we address it clearly. Not just data. Here we are looking at quality data. There are bad data actually. So I'm talking from the sense of surveys, and I'm talking from the sense of implementations, be it the development space, be it humanitarian space. What we call data is quality data. Now, in the indicators, as you have said at the beginning of your intervention or your activity, should be measurable. And also, every member of the team needs to understand actions that needs to be done for us to achieve that indicator. For example, our indicator simply means percentage of pupil or percentage of individuals with access to improved water or improved sanitation. What are the things? What data do we need to measure that indicator? First off, you need to probably conduct a survey to know do they have access to sanitation facilities? What type of sanitation facilities do they have access to? And those data need what to be validated. There needs to be a level of validation on your data. Generally, for surveys, we use our coordinate, our GPS data to validate. You do some programming to your tools. You ensure that a level of spot checks. You do quality assurance. All manners of that divided and embedded into surveys to ensure that you have quality data. Another thing that we can also leverage on is technology. I've mentioned a few of them. It's embedding technology in data collection and analysis processes. How can technology help us to achieve all of these things? In bringing technology into this, also think around technology for data collection, technology for data validation, technology for improving accuracy of data collection. Then we move on to who is accountable or responsible for what. Because for you to have or ensure data-driven accountability, individuals on that spectrum needs to be responsible and accountable for whatever. Then we move on to what do we learn from data? How do we learn from data? What are we learning from our data? So I also want to add here that it's important for organizations to prioritize data use within and also foster data literacy. People need to know the importance of data that they are collecting. People need to know how that data will be used. And most importantly, there should be a monitoring system to track data that will be collected towards your indicator targets. So you want to be accountable on your project, you want to deliver on your project, you need to develop a monitoring or a tracking system towards those project objectives and project goals. Thank you, and over.
All right, thank you, Adebayo, for that very enlightening response. I'll be coming to Victor. Adebayo mentioned embedding technology in data collection, in data validation. He talked about tracking data. He talked about data literacy. And we know all of these things are embedded or are supported by technology. So my question now is, what steps can we take to bridge the digital divide, ensuring that everybody, both government, all the stakeholders, governments, international organizations, even individuals like us attending this webinar can benefit from this data?
Okay, good. First of all, I think people need to understand that data is not emotional and it is not an opinion. Okay, so if you say the sky is blue, that might be an opinion, but when you have data to back it up, that is not a fact. So what is A in Nigeria will be A in the US. So these are facts. So when you are speaking opinion, when you are mentioning, you say something, first of all, you need to learn you need to learn to question data. So once you see something or somebody tells you that, for instance, somebody tells you, I'm trying not to use a real example, right? But right away somebody tells you that Nigeria is in the northern part of the world, and that's what the person is saying. So you need to be sure to know if the person is making an opinion, which everybody is entitled to, But once you have data, opinion has to submerge. You have to just leave opinion out of it because data supersedes opinion. And another usage of data is to understand that if you have a particular data, like for instance, we have a data of the Nigerian population as far back as 2006. That was the last time census was conducted in Nigeria. And that particular time, Nigerian population was around maybe 160 to 170 million. Between that particular time and now, we are sure that the population has increased, right? So what the data Google did, what the NBS did, now there's no official census to be sure of the number, but what they did is that there's a projection. So sometimes I'm talking about data literacy. So there's a projection. So people do, there's a mathematical projection you can do and say for every year, this is the number of people that can actually be imputed or be born into the country. So you use that mathematics to tell us that we are over 200 million. This is the same thing that the World Bank does. The World Bank can literally project the next 25 years, the population of different countries. Now, coming back to the question of how to use technology in doing this. Now, when we talk about technology, people sometimes think that it is very, very big. You know, I like to break it down, right? Your technology is anything that makes things easier for you, not necessarily so that you don't have to do it manually. So you pick up your phone and you have an Excel sheet on your phone, and then maybe this particular day you bought rice for a particular amount and you impute it there. Next month, let's say for January, you bought rice for 20 naira. The next month, you're buying rice for 30 naira. This particular month, you're buying rice for 100 naira. You have data to show that there have been a progressive increase in the amount of data you have been buying for the past years. That is data for you. So for many years, the organization I was with, we work with something. We're collecting data from Twitter page. So what we're doing is that we're collecting Twitter followers for each individual online. And we did that for many years. And then we'll be doing who has increased followers. It was like a joke until people start paying for it. Now, in using technology, when people are scared of technology, because sometimes data analytics, people want to look at Python, want to use the SQL, you want to look at all this. Some of them are complex for you, and that scares people away. That doesn't even want to make. There was the first time I tried to use Python, I left it coding. Nobody wants to code. But if you also check it, the world has been making things easier. Who wants to use, people have tried to reduce the use of, for instance, the use of Photoshop. People use Canva. You know, people use, what I call it, Excel. You want to do infographics for data collection. There are many tools to use. My point is in the usage of technology, let's try as much as possible. I've gone to several trainings when people talk about technology. People usually feel that they are not talking to them. So you are, for instance, people say, not me that they talk to. I don't have degree in this. But I'm telling you that for you to bring those social change in your life, there are little things that you're using. What Tracka is doing, Tracka is using technology. They're using Twitter technology to pass the information they are doing. And that is what you're seeing is from the front end, though. What they do on the back end, which I can relate to. There's a lot of Excel sheets that happens behind the scenes. Ayo can testify to that. There's a lot of Excel sheets, and data can be very, very annoying. You know, a lot of Excel sheets, and then you will find a way to analyze it and bring it out presentation now as a form of infographics. And people are like, this is beautiful, this is nice, but they have no idea what you went through. You know, one of the things that Tracka did, which I've also visited their website, because there's a story I'm working on, which I got the information from their website. Shout out to you and your team, Ayo, by the way. Now, you go to their website, you can literally, as an individual, I think Ayo, we won't have to speak more on this. You go to as an individual, take picture of things, a bad road in your community, which is data. Sure, I told you data is not just numbers. No, you're taking a picture of bad road, they will upload it on the website. Journalists like us go to the website and see that there's a particular road that is a citizen just posted and it's bad. So what do? I make a visitation to there to confirm what the citizen said, you know, and then I go back to Tracka. Say, Tracka would not tell you that, oh, there's a particular amount that have been donated for this. And then there's a multi-layer of using different technology. There's AI technology that has been built. The organization I work for, the budget, they have what we call Gov spend. how governments spend their money. These are technology people use to track things. And you will not know, there is even technology as far as how many Christian and Muslim, how many country worship more, which country actually pray more, and all that. People collect data for anything. It might not make sense to you, but it's making sense for some other person. So in rounding up, I would say that don't be scared of technology, one. And when we're talking about technology, we're talking about your everyday information. The ones you put on Facebook, where they ask you if you know you're an Igbo guy, the finest Igbo guy, show your style. Show us how you fit in white. You upload it and post those pictures. You're presenting data to the people that needs it. You know, maybe tomorrow we want to depict a particular story. You're looking for somebody that wears white. We will see your picture there. So that is how it actually works. So technology is not that big. Let's not be making it look like we use TikTok, we use TikTok, we use Instagram. These are technology, and you're presenting, you're interacting with it. And the reason why I'm trying to use these simple terms is because I don't want people to run away from it. It is when you start understanding that it's not as big as, it's not that complex as you think, then you get to understand it very well. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Victor. So because of our time, I just have two more questions, one for Ayomide, and then the last one would be, I will require a response from our three panelists. So for Ayo, in your opinion, what are the key policy changes needed to create an enabling environment for data-driven development efforts?
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Victor. Thank you for the shout outs. I see that you're a big fan of our work. Thank you. We're also a big fan of the TheCable Index and how you are promoting financial data for public use. So okay, I have to share my vision. For key policy changes, I think the first thing is for us to take data and research seriously. We have quite a number of research agencies in Nigeria, but it seems like their work is, they're just there, and there's a lot of unused data that we are not making use of. We have to first mandate MDAs. We just want to start an advocacy for ministries, departments, and agencies to always put out data on their implementation activities in every year. So that is improving access to data for projects in the country. So key policy changes will be to fund and research data, data and research agencies, and also data and research programs. Data should be seen as a whole entity on its own, not something that is, though it's a means to an end, but if we are always treating it as a means to an end, we will be having, what is it called? It's like embarking on a research with an outcome, with an end goal in mind. So if we're always treating data as a means to an end all the time, our bias will form the kind of data we want to collect and what we are seeing from the data. So data has to be something that stands alone, that the government is intentional about gathering data and research. And also there's something that I think still says that in God we trust, every other person must bring data. Me, I would say that even God himself needs to bring data. And that is the importance of how big it is if we are serious about moving forward. I was at an event where I was saying that as of today, we don't know the population that we have. We are using our population figures based on what international organizations are saying. So it says World Bank estimates that Nigeria has 100 or 200 million people. It's like somebody from outside coming to tell you at home that, oh, I think your family should be a family of 5 and not 6. And why you at home, why can't you count? It's like that's even a fundamental problem. So key policy changes. First, we need to even be serious. That data, that census that we have been holding off, putting off for a long time, it has to happen. If it doesn't happen, we are just creating things out of thin air, imagining numbers and using whatever and whatever it is. So on that note, that I'm going to end my what's it called? My talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ayo. Thank you to all our panelists. As a final, just to conclude this discussion session, what is the key message, or we'll say piece of advice you would like to leave our audience with regards to the power of the transformative power of data? So I'll start with you, Adebayo.
Okay, thank you for having me today. And this has been a very interesting discussion. Data is my passion. I've been in that space for some time now. And data has no limits. In fact, the power of data has no limit. That is my final statement. And Ayomide mentioned something, and also Victor, which is about the population of Nigeria. It's a big shame that a country we celebrate independence annually and we don't know how many we are. Data is useful for planning. We don't have a population. How do we plan? We are basing our population on projections based on our growth rates, which has been calculated many years ago. So it's a big shame on, I don't want to say, but really it's a big shame. Data, the power of data has no limits, and do all you can to produce quality data. Make it as accessible as possible and use it as you ought to do. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you very much. Ayo, let me hear from you.
So I would say that our responsibility as citizens also goes beyond clamoring for the government to fund data and collect data. We have to use data. So the way the world works is that people fund, or people put attention into what there is demand for. In our advocacy, in our discussions, in our everything, the more we use data, the more we show that there is a critical need for this thing to be addressed. So all the organizations that work on data or that use data, let's share. You see their tweets, you see their posts, let's share. In day-to-day conversations, you can always use data. I had a friend recently who just moved to the US and was trying to talk about how much Americans are spending on Halloween, about $12 billion, I think. And it just went from that to taking data from our website, BudgIT, and saying that Nigeria's entire budget is 12 trillion naira, which is the 12 billion, Nigeria's entire revenue for 2023. So look at him using our data in that way. So you can use data, basically using the data and Halloween together. You can use data for everything. So the more citizens use data, the more we use it to back up our advocacy. Either we are clamoring for the government to do something, use data. If you are clamoring for, if you want something in your community, use data from organizations, use data backed by research. That is what we actually make the government pay attention to fund and actually see the importance of actually pumping resources into this sector. I'll leave with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We appreciate your insights today, and I believe that the audience have learned one or two things during this session. I will leave the floor open for questions. If you have questions, kindly raise your hands, or you could leave your question in the chat box and we'll attend to them. We'll just use a few minutes, maybe about 2-3 minutes, to see if anybody has questions. Okay, so I don't seem to see any hand raised or any message in the chat box. So at this point, I think we'll just proceed to the next session, where I will invite my colleague, Obaluluwa, to give us a brief insight as to what Sociocapital does in relation to data, and we call it our Sociocapital Impact Works. Oba, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. A very big thank you to our speakers, Mr. Sam, Mr. Victor, and Ms. Ayo. All right, so our research and data arm in Sociocapital is called Impact Works. And we tag this impact work because as much as we believe that data is a standalone thing, we also see data and research as a means to an end and not just an end in itself. And that end is to create impact. Creating impact, reaching out to people, even at the bottom of the pyramid. And that is why we tag it as impact work. So at Sociocapital, our impact portfolio helps organizations to make better decisions, not just based on assumption, but based on evidence, and to achieve measurable value and drive scalable changes. Changes are meant to be scalable and even sustainable, of course, through the use of data. We also provide social impact monitoring and measurement, learning practices, supporting organizations to apply data. And application of data, as I said, is to the end of making impact, creating social impact, and insight to enable sound decision making and deliver measurable blended value. Next slide, please. So our core service area includes landscape analysis and impact modeling, market implementation, and outcome research, right from the baseline phase to the headline phase. We also provide monitoring, evaluation, and adaptive learning services. We do process evaluation to help clients, businesses, and even government when it comes to monitoring and evaluating their processes. Also, the impact assessment. Impact reporting, and it's not just about using data. It's more about creating impact. What effect does what you have found, data that you have, what effect does it have on people? What changes are being made? So the solutions that will provide include system strengthening, impact measurement, assessment and reporting, management and advisory, organizational development, and learning. System strengthening could be in form of capacity building, could be in form of finance management, could be in form of human resource management. So what approach do we use? So as Sociocapital, we use a robust impact measurement framework using set of key impact indicators to assess progress, to identify levels of change, and to understand the economic and social return on social intervention. We also use data to inform policies. We do not just base decisions on assumptions. We use data to inform policies and initiatives, and also to stimulate future learnings for program implementation. So as much as it is, we know that there are programs, and of course there are even funding for some of these programs. But the basis for implementing any program should be based on the needs of people, and not just based on what the funders want. For example, if you're trying to set up a project about, say, let's say water. If water is not the problem of the people in that area, then of course you're not making impact. Fine, you're spending money. Fine, you're trying to create value, but is the value actually needed where you're proposing it? So this is our approach. Following this conversation, there is a lot on our website about what our social impact portfolio looks like. You can please visit us, visit the website. The link has been shared. The link will also be shared in the chat box. Visit the website to gain more information about our impact work, and we would be happy to hear from you. If you have anything for us at all, you can reach out to us through our website. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Oba. That was brief and straight to the point. Next on our agenda is, can I please see what we have? Okay, our information is on the screen. You can reach out to us any way you want to connect to us. Our social media handles are there. So finally, I will say thank you very much for taking out time out of your busy schedules to our speakers, and also our participants. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation to attend our webinar series. We'll continually share our programs left before the end of the year, and we hope that you will join us. Once again, thank you very much to our panelists, and I trust that you will have a great weekend.